Perfect. Just getting warmed up over here at Emotionships, the podcast.
No biggie.
Are we going to clear the vagus nerve before we get this party started?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can. Not into the microphone, please.
Welcome to Emotionships, where we talk about the real reason everything happens for a reason. I am your host, Charlie Carroll, along with my conservative co-host, Mallory Redmond.
You've done that one recently.
This one is very intentional.
Sure, I believe that 100%.
Very intentional. My conservative co-host, everyone, Mallory Redmond.
Go ahead.
Mal, welcome to the program.
You have thanks. Blah blah blah. Why?
Well, I thought we would start this episode off. I want to give more things away. I really like giving people gifts. And so I thought we would give some things away here. For those of you that are listening, if you have not sent us a text to let us know that you're out there, you can send a text to 937-303-4788. Once again, that number is 937-303-4788. And this is just where we engage with you, is via this texting line.
Yeah.
I was texted this morning on this from a listener.
Loyal listener.
Yes. And he said he could not believe the benefits of shouting from our last episode, clearing the vagus nerve, which is the wandering nerve throughout the whole body, goes from the brain all the way down through the digestive system. And often emotions, if you listen to that podcast, can bog that down and screw a lot of things up. And so he was just saying that he could not believe the ongoing benefits to clearing the vagus nerve.
Yeah. I got a text from somebody asking if we could have a group shouting session.
Oh, of course. It's so beneficial.
That's
it's ridiculous.
Super therapeutic.
If you have not listened to episode 37,
I don't know.
you need to listen to it. Clear that thing up.
Yeah.
Today is a special day, and then we'll get back to the idea of giveaways here, giving our listeners time to subscribe to or text us at 937-303-4788.
Is that how they get in the giveaway?
Yeah.
Just by sending a text?
Well, they're gonna hear what they need to do, which I haven't thought about that yet, but I'm sure it will come to me right after this late breaking announcement.
Okay, perfect.
Today is my son's 16th birthday.
Yeah, you're super old.
I know. How do I have a 16-year-old? I was just 16 yesterday.
Literally, I was just going to say that. It feels like that.
Yeah.
I remember turning 6. I remember everything
the
about
day.
It. Yeah.
What I did.
What'd you do?
I got in one of my parents' cars and went wherever I could, just because I could.
Yes.
What in the world is up with kids these days not wanting to get their license? I don't understand that.
Do they not want to get their license?
There's a lot of people out there that just don't get their license. They're like, I'll get to it whenever I can. I don't know. I wanted that independence.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
but
but that's not true with everybody these days.
Is it true for your son?
Yes. He's going to be gone.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah. So that's okay.
That's great. Good job being a parent for 16 years.
16 years.
That's
it's
real life.
It's real life, and it's hard to believe, honestly.
I bet.
That it has gone this fast.
I bet.
So happy birthday, Charlie.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening in. Good birthday presents coming this evening.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't talk about what he's getting.
I already know what he's getting. Do you want to give him a little hint? But he'll have it by the time that he hears this.
That is true.
So never mind.
No hints.
What a dumb idea.
No hints for you. Getting into our giveaway, if you have yet to send us a text to 937-303-4788, you need to do this because we are getting ready to go into the holiday season. Does it sound like I've already had a cortado this morning?
Yeah, I mean, you're very enthusiastic. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
What's wrong with being enthusiastic?
I literally just said it's great, and I said it twice.
Oh, perfect. We are going into the holiday season where we're going to be giving crazy stuff away. And so you need to subscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Nothing. I don't want to talk about it.
So you know that one of my favorite clothing companies is out in Venice Beach, California.
Yes.
Known as Aviator Nation.
Right.
And
I know that.
I really like them. They're expensive.
We're trying to get the woman who started Aviator Nation onto the podcast.
Paige, if you're listening.
If you're listening by any chance.
Yes, we need you. But I really like it. It has, the brand has a lot of good memories, and I like hats.
What do you mean, good memories?
Just being out there in Venice Beach. Just being able to.
Because I feel like you found them somewhat recently. Within the past few years.
Yeah, 3 years ago, probably, ish. But it's just really cool out there in Venice Beach.
What's the emotionship between you and Aviator Nation?
That's a really good question. It's probably the energy of Venice Beach. If you've ever been to Venice Beach, I mean, it's very much people-oriented. People are just content with, I feel like people are really content with who they are out there. It's one of those environments where people just seem to be comfortable in their own skin. It helps.
There's a lot of skin out there.
There is a lot of skin out there. It's like bodybuilding, fitness capital of the world. I was out there not long ago, and it's like 11:30 at night, and here's like, honestly, I'm not making this up, like 100 people just out jogging down this road, Abbott Kinney, which is where Aviator Nation is, just out jogging. 11:30 at night, like hundreds of people. It was one of those commercial, or one of those thoughts, like almost a commercial, like, where's everybody going?
Yeah. What am I missing?
Yeah.
But you do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just not with herds of people.
Yeah. Yesterday I had some joggers on and a big hoodie from Valentino, and my LA hat on that I'm sporting today as well. And my wife just looked at me. She said, "You're not from here.
Yeah.
You're not an Ohio person. You're a Cali kid."
Sure.
Which I love California.
Yeah.
Okay. Now getting into, so these hats are super, super cool trucker hats. If you are watching right now, you can see what this hat looks like. This is Aviator Nation.
In the bag.
Well, yeah, because it's new, and it has like the skippers. What do you call that?
I don't know.
On the bill. You don't have to know, but it's like the branches like you'd see in the military. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Just look at the video, everybody.
You can find that in the link on our Instagram page, by the way. You can get to our YouTube page. And so these hats are really cool. They're really expensive. And this one just came out, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to get an extra one, though it might hurt my budget, to give away to a loyal listener here at Emotionships, the podcast.
That's great.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
You just need to share a piece of Emotionships content, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, it doesn't matter.
LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. I think we'll need to put something on LinkedIn, but yeah, share it on LinkedIn too. But here's the point: share something on social media, and then tell us you did it. And so text us at 937-303-4788 and say, "Hey, I shared your content," and then we will draw the winner on our next episode.
All right, so it's a two-parter.
It's a two-parter. You have to share,
tell us you shared,
and then you have to tell us you shared it, because that's the only way we're going to go look and find your post when we draw your name. But we will get this sparkling, brand new Aviator Nation hat to you, and we're going to leave it in the plastic.
Yeah, because it's brand new.
Now, I started the show off introducing my conservative co-host, and as I said, that was very intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we know.
Not long ago, your lovely co-host and I had a bet in regard to her taxes. And
you're talking about me to me, right?
I am.
Okay.
Well,
you just changed tenses. It was very confusing.
Because I'm really talking to our audience
All right
now.
Audience, listen up.
So your lovely co-host and I had a bet in regard to her taxes, because she had are we allowed to talk specific numbers here or no?
I don't know. Will it get me arrested?
She had a balance of a lot of money. Several $1,000s.
Yeah, $7,000 or something.
Yes. And I just said, because of the simplicity of her taxes, I said, I will do your taxes for you, and you just need to take advantage of the different ways that you're paid and having a home office.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to get arrested.
No, you're not going to get arrested. This is all normal stuff.
Okay.
And so I said, I'm sure you're not taking advantage of all of these different tax breaks. And she said,
that is true.
And she said, okay, are you going to do my taxes? And I said, yes. And I said, let's make a bet. And she said, okay, what is it? I said, if I get you a return to where you make a little bit of money, even $1, and you don't have to pay your $7,000, I am going to share with you, and you will have to wear this lovely Trump hat that someone got me that still has the tag on it. And
also brand new.
Also brand new. And Mal said, sure. If you're telling me you think you can get rid of my $7,000 and make me a little bit of money, I will wear this Trump hat. And we've said that you would wear it in public somewhere.
Yeah.
For the day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make you an offer.
Do it.
Right here on Emotionships, the podcast. I will eliminate you having to wear this in public if you want to wear it for the rest of the podcast today.
Let's just think through this logic.
Sure.
I wear it one day in public, or I wear it on a video recorded podcast that lives on the internet. Go ahead with the logic.
Well, the decision is yours.
I mean, it's fine. I'll wear it. I don't care.
Well, I'm not forcing you to wear it. I'm just saying that if you don't want to wear it in public, you can. I'm giving it over to her for those of you that are just listening. I think you're going to have to take your ears off
first.
But
I like the ear. I want my ears.
Well, yeah. See how my hat is where the ears. Yeah. Just make sure it fits nice. And yeah, you can take the tags off. No big deal.
I mean, it's quality
It's
hat.
well built.
It's
Donald
made
Trump
in China.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody.
This
Keep
is
America
unbelievable. We are just 20 some days out from the election, and here
made
we
in
are.
China.
There. That looks good on you, Mal.
Yeah, it feels nice.
It does. For those of you,
Feels like $7,000.
Well, good for you. And you know who gave you the $7,000? I didn't really give you. I was just a part of it, a small part of this.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we roll out of this episode,
I can feel all of the big feelings.
Oh,
about me, about what's happening. There's a lot of
feelings.
Opinions happening right now.
Don't
Guys,
worry.
Just chill out. Go shout somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. Don't worry, I will be blamed for this whole thing. Rolling out of our segment about the hat, don't forget you can text us at 937-303
really want people texting you.
4788 to tell us that you shared the post, and you might win this Aviator Nation hat. Speaking of hats, you see my LA Dodgers hat on. Did you see the game the other night?
No.
It was amazing. Cody Bellinger, who grew up in a baseball family. His dad played for the Yankees. Just a really, really great story. Won Rookie of the Year, and he wasn't drafted. I think he was drafted in the 4th round. And again, just a whole baseball family had a walk-off homer that basically won the game for the Dodgers after they were down 3-1 against the Braves, which when you're down 3-1, you typically don't come back. I was talking with a friend of mine from LA. I have family out in LA, and we were just talking about the Lakers winning and the Dodgers winning, and it being kind of a Kobe year, right? That LA is still recovering from and processing everything with Kobe. And as I was reading about Cody's home run, Bellinger's home run, there's video out there. He separated his shoulder when he was celebrating. He did kind of one of those jump, like hit elbows type thing. And after he hits this home run that wins the game, he's worth a lot of money, signed an $11 million contract, and dislocates his shoulder in the celebration, which was wild. But here's the cool story. This year, after Kobe passed, obviously baseball was delayed. On his 24th at-bat for the season, he hit his 8th home run. And so
catch those numbers.
Exactly. Connecting the dots for those of you. Kobe's numbers were 8 and 24. And it was pretty cool. Just a little story that you can't make up.
Yeah. That
Cody Bellinger, who just hit this home run to send his team to the World Series, which is super exciting for everybody out in California, hit his 8th home run of the season at his 24th at bat, which is just absolutely phenomenal.
So the World Series is happening now. I'm very detached from baseball right now.
It's getting
very detached.
It's getting ready to start.
So it's who? The Dodgers versus who? Astros? Gilman, get on the Google.
And so super excited to see this LA thing
I love
happening.
it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what kicked off 2020, right? Was Kobe's? I mean, that was January, I think.
It was wild, and someone put a picture out after a friend of mine put a picture out after actually it was Ben Baller, who's a podcaster and jeweler out in LA, put a picture out the other day of Kobe and Magic sitting at a Dodgers game, which was just amazing because both of them, I grew up watching both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe and I are the same age, and their smiles, both of them had contagious smiles.
Lights up a room. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they were there at a game together. And so that's exciting to watch this World Series and this LA thing play out.
Love it.
Speaking of their smiles, one of the things that I was thinking about is just, we say on the podcast that if you die with a dream in your heart, you die a dreamer. But if you die with a dream in their heart, you die a legacy. Yep. And looking at that picture of Magic and Kobe, it's just amazing to see how a person's life continues to have an impact after their breath is gone.
For sure.
That our life and the energy from our life exceeds that of our breath. And it got me thinking about the magnetic fields that come from the heart. There's a lot of science that has been rolling out over the last several years about the biomagnetic field that comes from the heart, that the heart actually has electricity in it. And it's the electrical waves in the heart that pushes the blood and everything out. And why I think this is relevant is because there are those people like Cody Bellinger and Kobe and Magic and, of course, other artists that literally their energy is just, when you are in their presence, you recognize that they're living a life and have an amount of energy to them that is not normal. Mm-hmm. And now what the science is starting to demonstrate is that this is a biomagnetic field or resonance that comes from the heart that can extend even up to 9 feet away from the person. And another thing that got me thinking about this is, for the tail part of the school year last year and the beginning of school this year, there are obviously still some students that are not going to school, but we have yet to allow our approach to learning and everything else for that matter catch up with cutting edge science. And what I mean by that is, with all of these kids going to school online and doing it via Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever the solution is, mm-hmm. we fail to realize how much communication via energy is missed out on. And we'll put some of these notes in the episode for today, but I just went back because I remembered seeing some of this not long ago, looking at the science of the biomagnetic field coming from the heart and how emotions can lift that frequency to a more positive frequency and can also lower it. And so there is an EEG that measures, a machine now that measures, and they were doing this back in the 1800s, but it's just now starting to be talked about because our technology is that much better. Where literally you measure this magnetic field that comes from the heart that they think, based on a lot of their experiments, rests right underneath our consciousness. And so when you're standing in front of someone, using school as an example, there is a lot more energy and information being communicated mm-hmm. than just what is coming from someone's mouth. And I think the next 50 years is going to be very exciting as we allow some of these new revelations to catch up with how we handle ourselves and how we operate in community and throughout society.
Like, what do you mean? What can you say? What do you mean?
Well, I'll show you some pictures in the episode. We'll put them in the episode if you're going to watch the video, where they're doing EEGs on people in other people's magnetic field. I'll show you an EEG where by just grabbing someone's hand, how their magnetic field and their basically energy starts to match your energy, or how certain words raise the magnetic field of the heart, and certain words or energy lowers the magnetic field of the heart. In some of this information, they were showing how the magnetic field, animals tend to respond and be well more aware of the magnetic field of the earth than we are. They were talking about satellite images that show whether it's deer or sheep or cattle. This is all proven science. They will find magnetic north, meaning because the magnetic field in the earth changes and shifts, and they will line themselves up with it, because when they line themselves up with magnetic north, they receive more energy. And if you think about it, next time you go past a field and you see cattle grazing, watch how they say 70 to 80% of them are all facing the same direction. And it's not north on a map, it's wherever the magnetic field is. And you know from knowing Body Garage Dayton, where we have machines that basically fill you with a healthy magnetic field, that magnetic field is strong in certain parts of the world at times, and then as the earth shifts and turns, it's strong in other places. But the magnetic field in the earth is there to give us life and energy. And so when people talk about going to the beach and walking with your shoes off to ground yourself, we're talking about the magnetic field. And getting back to why I started this, we now know that the higher the magnetic field or the energy is in your heart, the healthier you will be, because it's that energy that is moving everything else throughout your body. And when I talk about being excited for the next 50 years and how we apply that, all of a sudden we're going to start getting into what we've kind of realized but never really talked about or been intentional with. And that is, just because you're an expert at, teaching biology or teaching algebra doesn't mean you are the best fit teacher for that classroom. Sure. That there is way more to life to be communicated and experienced through actual energy, which is what everything else rests on, than just the words that are attempting to describe a reality, and that reality is energetic. Everything in life is an attempt to describe, interact with, and benefit from that which adheres to the truth. And so we've got to get out of this archaic mindset that says it's just intellect and words that communicate energy.
So if you are with someone who, like, let's say your magnetic, what are you saying? Magnetic
field yeah.
is super high.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Not like for you, but
sure.
Am I saying the right words?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you come into contact, you're meeting with someone whose magnetic field is super low. Whose adjusts? Like, does theirs get higher, or does yours get lower?
It's always easy to pull something that is up down more than it is to pull something down.
Like when you're with someone
up.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so drained just by being with you.
I was reading research from a specific lab that was doing all of these tests, and what they said is the more coherent, or the more coherence you have with this magnetic field, the more you try to tune in and become aware of it, the more you will be affected by it. If you're ignorant of it, it will still affect you, but you have no protection for yourself. And so I would say over the last 18 months, I have been even more aware of being in people's presence. I was in someone's presence even last night, where I started feeling certain emotions that I had to just remind myself that's their stuff. I'm not going to entertain it or try to connect it to a thought of mine or an experience of mine. That's theirs. I'll acknowledge it, that it's theirs. and then I'll shake it off.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, just because, we see this with athletes, sometimes it is a traumatic past that drives people to get out from where they were from, and they become a great receiver, but they relationally and emotionally are extremely dysfunctional. And so you see these professional teams, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, that go out and get, this player that's really good at doing what they're doing, and they absolutely tear the locker room apart,
Right.
and the team can't do anything. They're stacked with talent,
Yeah.
but they can't do anything because the real energy is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And so I think Bill Belichick and Phil Jackson, football and basketball, are two examples of people that really got it. I remember when Ocho Cinco left Cincinnati and tried to play in New England, and he didn't last long because Bill Belichick did not want that energy around his team.
Gosh, I'd so much rather have mediocre players with
great work ethic, great energy. Yeah. And so when you look at students in the classroom, our children go to a great school that understands kind of the holistic nature of life. And I chose not to send my kids to a quote unquote Christian school where thought dictated or dominated why they would be there. I don't believe in Christian plumbers. I don't believe in Christian landscapers. You know what I mean? Where they use the cross or some sort of Christian image as their brand. I don't believe in a Christian mom or dad. Like, you are actually who you are without the labels, and we don't need to bring faith into it like a Christian school in order to model life and demonstrate life to people. And so we chose for our kids a school which really was just an environment where there was a certain caliber of energy that exists, because like a plant, that seed is dependent upon whatever energy is in the soil. You can have a great seed that will be ruined by a poor soil. And it's not to say that all people in any given environment vibe at the same level, that have the same amount of life. There are teachers that are in our children's school system that vibe lower than others. But overall, knowledge and information and education is all about life, trying to describe, adhere to, and obtain more life. And so I'm putting my kids in a school system for modeling purposes. That's what I want. I want my kids to be around people that model a high amount of that which adheres to the truth, right?
Yeah.
Or that which adheres to the facts, which is called truth.
So how do you do that if you don't have the resources to choose such a school?
Yeah.
Like, how do you help your kids or family members when you're a little bit more limited?
Well, and hence, now you understand why we are where we are as a country, because everything that's great doesn't happen overnight. And so the good news is it can take a while for a dysfunctional environment to manifest and exist and be built. But then also you've got to walk back through the path that you've built. And so I think when we look back on the last 100 years and we see the rise of industry and our value became associated with what we do versus who we are, the family fell apart. And the problem with that is the family is supposed to be the first place that kids live in this healthy energy. And so there's a lot of dysfunction that exists in the environments where kids spend the most amount of time because we have allowed alternative messages about what could make us valuable dictate and drive our life. And so we can't create and maintain environments where a lot of life exists. Well, what are you talking about, Charlie? Like, give me an example with an environment for a family or for children where life exists. I would say you could say something like, hey, in this family, in this home, we're more concerned about being honest than we are right. Meaning, when you feel the pressure to give the right answer, don't allow that to make you dishonest, because you can appear to be right and be dishonest. And the built-in accountability that God gave us, which is frickin' beautiful, is that the body knows when you're lying. The body was made for truth. And it doesn't mean that you can't be wrong. All I'm saying is that the body knows the difference between when you're intentionally trying to cover up something and when you're, ignorant to something. And so creating environments where a lot of life exists is what's best for the person. And so if you don't have the means to send your child to a school where a lot of life, or put your child in an environment where a lot of life can be modeled, in some ways it's a blessing because you're up. And I'm a firm believer that parents and grandparents should not farm out their responsibility to create life-giving environments to their church or to their school, that they've got to create that environment. And I'm not saying it's easy, it's tough.
Well, I think it's especially tough when, you're talking to someone right now who is, my husband and I both work.
Sure.
And so our girls are in the hands of daycare operators for a lot of their life. And that's, unless I quit my job or I go down in my number of hours that I work, like that's the nature of it right now, is that I am farming it out a little bit. I'm doing what I can when I'm with them, but I'm not with them for several hours, 5 days a week.
Yeah. So if you're going to farm it out, you need to pick an environment where life is being modeled for them.
And that's what I'm saying, is I feel like sometimes that can be really hard when you don't have the resources.
Sure.
So I imagine there are people listening who are feeling really stuck then.
Well, again, it comes down to, even if you are in a situation as a single parent where you have to work one or two jobs and your kids are being put in different environments in order to make that happen, it's still going to be quality over quantity, right? That the energy that makes you is more important than an abundance of hours. We have all kinds of crazy examples all throughout history of children that were raised in orphanages and still survived and thrived. And I would just say that if you're in a place where you can't give your child the environment you'd like, it's that much more important that you clarify the values that you want to instill in them, that other values can be built on top of. And so when I say, to my children, it's better to be honest than it is to be right, that's going to serve them the rest of their life, because when they make a mistake at work, instead of feeling the pressure to cover it up and lie about it, just be honest. And honesty builds trust and creates opportunities, versus the person that is always massaging or managing the appearance of things. Mm-hmm. They will eventually betray themselves. Mm-hmm. And so there is no perfect situation. It's if you're overwhelmed today, I would just ask you to ask yourself, how do I do the best with where I am right now? How do I do the best job I can with where I am right now? Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is, in a lot of ways, just because your kid is physically separated from you does not mean that energetically they are separated from you. Sure. If you're making the most of the 3 or 4 hours you see them a day, even though there are teachers that are spending 8 hours in front of them each day, you still have an opportunity to share energy with them and build bridges through words and experiences, and living those hours together, that short amount of hours together. Mm-hmm. And so I want my kids, when they're at school, to hear when they make a mistake, I want them to hear my voice and feel my energy that says, it's better to be honest than it is right. I'll never punish you for being honest, right? It doesn't mean that there won't be consequences to your actions, but I much rather anyone that works for me, anyone that knows me, my children, whomever, I know myself, and I'm so much more comfortable with just saying, I made a mistake, I blew it, let's move on, I apologize, than falling underneath or failing underneath the fear of disappointment and turning one mistake into two by lying.
Okay, so we talked about family. That was fun. Business wise,
Yeah.
if you have employees or coworkers, if you're not in charge, who like vibe really low and have
Yeah.
really low energy, like in your experience, what do you do with that? Like how much time, I guess, do you give people to like, why are you laughing?
I keep smiling, looking over there at you with your Trump
I've been
hat
wondering,
on.
I've been wondering how hard it is for you to take me seriously.
I'm dying. Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's not like their family. Like, I guess you don't really necessarily have to keep them around. So what do you do with people in the workplace like that?
Sure. In some ways, they're more important than family. Right? I mean, look at how Jesus handled his life. And he said, who are my family? Who are my mother's brothers and sisters? This is Mark chapter 3. And he says, those who hear my word and do it. And in some ways, if you apply that into a business context, the goal of the environment, like let's take table 33 as an example. Mm-hmm. I want guests to come in there and have an incredible experience. And so do most of our employees. But my point is not the guest having a good experience. That's not the objective for me. The objective for me is using the power and the influence that I have to create a positive environment where first and foremost, the employees and those that work there are becoming healthier. And what I mean by healthier, they're vibing at a higher frequency. And in doing so, guess what? When you're a chef or a sous chef or a server or a bartender and you vibe at a higher level of consciousness and energy, overall energy, you make better stuff.
Sure.
And so often we compromise the whole by pursuing a part, not understanding that when you focus on overall holistic health, you create environments where people want to come to work. The dream for me is to be a part of teams where the environment and the culture is so healthy that people want to come to work and they leave work with more energy that they came in with, even if they worked a 8, 10, or 12-hour shift.
Okay, so perfect. So in not compromising the whole, what do you do when there's one or two like people that are...
Yeah, good question. So it just depends on where you're at. And that's really complex in the sense that there are multiple layers to what I just said. It depends on where you're at. In 2007, I went out and spent time with someone that would go on to, in LA, that would go on to become a mentor to me. And what blew my mind, now he had about 55 years into leading, being a national leader at that time. What blew my mind was not necessarily his words of wisdom, though he had them, but it was the DNA, the fabric, the depth of the community that he had created over a 50-year time period. And I just shook my head, saying I did not know that a level of depth could exist, not only so deep, but so wide in a community of people like this. And it taught me that, you can't compare everything to everything else. And when I say, well, it depends on where you are, geographically, that's true, because in bigger cities, there are more people and therefore more talent and experiences to pull from, but also at what stage in the journey you are. And so I'm, 15, 20 years into being an entrepreneur, but I'm still learning things today that I feel like I should have learned 5 or 10 years ago. And because I happen to be the leader in a lot of these efforts, when I understand it, then the opportunity becomes, how do I get it into the fabric, into the life, into the culture of any specific business? And so where that takes me and why I say that as a preface is because if you're leading an organization that's a startup, meaning you're early on wherever you are, you have to have an appreciation and even fascination for historical context. If you try to compare yourself, right, and your beginning to someone else's middle or end, you're going to be in trouble. And there are a lot of businesses that go under because owners or investors are comparing someone's beginning to another person's middle or end. I had a friend that came into a table that was connected to another friend, and we're like a year and a half old at the time. We're not even 2 years old. We just celebrated our 4th birthday, but we weren't even 2 years old. And he's comparing us to all of these other established restaurants, like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50-year restaurants in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I just pulled him off to the side and said, bro, we're not even 2 yet.
Yeah, we're an infant.
And that tells me something about your ability to consult for people and for restaurants. If you're going to look at certain things and compare us to an organization that is, in some cases, 25 years older than we are, they had time to get their stuff together.
So that's my question. Is it just about time? Like somebody's middle and end and beginning, blah, blah, blah. Is it all about years in?
Yeah. Well, let's go deep with that for 1 second. Every minute is not created equal.
Right.
Your minute is not my minute.
Yeah.
The higher I vibe, the higher the biomagnetic frequency of my heart and my brain, which the magnetic field of the heart is about 100 times stronger than the brain. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because in American culture, we've made it all about education and income.
Mm-hmm.
And when you learn to live with the heart and listen to the heart that is picking up on all of the energy in the room, you've got 100 times more power and insight than if you're relying upon just your eyes and your ears. In some of the science I was reading about, these were not faith-oriented people at all, but they were talking about the magnificence of the human body and how it was created, that the ear is tuned to be able to pick up on it, as a governor on it, to be able to pick up on just the right amount of energy, or else if it had any more ability, it would start hearing too much of its own stuff. It would start hearing the processing of everything it hears. And all of that to say, like, in a business, and this is why I started off saying, bringing it all back around, it depends upon where you are. When you're in a startup, whether you're starting a family, whether you're starting a relationship, or you're starting a business, it takes a certain amount of people rowing the boat to get the boat to move. And so you can't say that I want all these, and this is often what managers or people that don't have enough experience leading fall prey to. You can't have all of the people you want from the very beginning. Maybe if you're in a huge city and you've got a lot of experience and this is your 3rd or 4th organization, you can adopt people out of your other organizations and, plant that culture right from the get-go. And that's, again, why I say it depends on where you are in your overall journey. But at the end of the day, if it takes 16 people to row the boat and 24 people are ideal, you're going to have to fill those 16 seats minimally.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you raise the tide of the culture over time, and people weed themselves out. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard reality to deal with, is that, listen, even as the owner and the chief passionate officer, like I'm very aware that I don't have time to sit on my hands and stop growing.
Yeah.
That I got to keep going. And the nature of any good organization or any good team is we're all committed to growing all the time. And eventually some people get to a place where they just stop growing and the culture or the organization outgrows them.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Sure.
And sometimes people outgrow the culture and they need to go somewhere else because they've hit their limit. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. But what it really comes back to is we are spiritual beings with energy flowing through us and to us from our environment and everything that's around us.
So if somebody is listening and they are recognizing that maybe they're not vibing at a very high frequency, like, then now what?
Yeah, I was talking with someone last night about some family issues that they were having, and I said a couple of things. I'm like, hold on 1 second. And I busted out my phone and did this IGTV clip just about the damning consequences of building your life around external realities. That when you unintentionally have been raised to believe that happiness or peace or anything good comes from the outside, you're going to always have a hard time vibing at the right level. And it's why financial poverty can be such a blessing when you don't have anything, because then you can't build your life around lies that say, if I had this, I would be happy. Mm-hmm. You know, I've said to you before, in some of the consulting that I do, I interact with and consult for very, very wealthy people. And I've been very privileged to be in environments where how much does this cost was not a question.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people that have resources know is resources can't make you happy. But we don't want to be, and you, if you're listening, you don't want to be a person that has to experience that to benefit from it. You should be able to coach yourself and know that you don't have to have a lot of money in order to understand that money doesn't bring you happiness. Too many people spend their whole life trying to obtain a certain something, and half of those people finally get it and they're ready to commit suicide. And this is why so many successful people commit suicide, is because they climb and they climb and they climb and they scratch and they claw and they betray people, and they finally get to the top and they realize it did not make them happy. Mm-hmm. And so in some ways, embracing this idea that nothing from the outside is ever going to make me happy really, really sets you up for success, because then when you are successful, you don't have to be disappointed, because you never set the expectation for yourself that if I have this amount of money, or I make this much, or I can travel this far, or I'm married to this person, I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. If my happiness and contentment and sense of peace is driven from an internal reality of gratitude and empathy and thankfulness, nobody can take that from me. Right. And that's why, you know, in a lot of our organizations, you know, throughout the quarantine, I've stepped on the gas. I'm not hitting the brakes. I'm stepping on the gas. And I could run out of money. I could run out of resources. I don't care, because you can't take my competence. You can take a lot of things from me. And I like things, right? Like, I like shoes. I like hats. I like experiences. I like food. I could go on saying all the things I like. Love them all, because they're a representation of a certain frequency where life happens. You know, and so someone will criticize you about a certain shoe you're wearing, a certain bag you have, or a certain watch you wear. You know, in some cases, the watches that I buy and sell and trade and make money off of, it takes 5 years and thousands of pieces for one person to put it together. And so it feels really good to live with a sense of consciousness about what it takes to build nice things. And I'll keep them and I'll sell them and I'll trade them and all of that. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to, you can have all my watches. You can have the cars I drive. You can have the clothes I wear. I don't, honestly, and people will say, well, you've never been through that. That's not true. I could tell you stories about losing a lot all at one time, specifically back when the market crashed in 2009. But that being said, like, the best way for you to ensure your happiness is don't build your happiness or sense of contentment or joy around anything from the outside. Mm-hmm. And people just literally, they lose their life, because when that one thing is removed, they feel like they can't go on living, because it's what they built their life around. Right. And so answering your question, right? What do you do for the person that says, man, I just have a low frequency? Investigate yourself. Yeah. Do an audit and figure out what you have planted in that soil of your heart. That's what Jesus said, that your heart is a soil. This is Mark chapter 4, the Gospel of Mark chapter 4. Start digging that soil up and figure out what things you have put in it that are not true. Money will make me happy. That is a lie that occupies a lot of space in the heart and will kill your vibe. Mm-hmm. This person liking me, needing this person's attention, is a lie that when planted in the soil of your heart will literally kill the vibe in your soil. And soil vibes, and that's what makes the seed come alive. And so if you're struggling out there, it could be because you inherited a lot of this and your genetic or your biological template from your parents. And now you've got to go back and start auditing what's in your heart and what your thoughts are to figure out where are all of your attachments. And an attachment is it's an unhealthy thing. It's anything that I've connected myself to, or a sense of what I've connected myself to in order to be happier or more whole. So we need to go on an exploration or an adventure, a hunt, to figure out what lies have I told myself about my happiness. And it's all cyclical. When you have lies in your heart about what will make you happy or what you need to be happy, and they're not true, that kills your vibe. And when your vibe is low, you attract low vibes to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so here's the good news. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to have everything fixed in order to raise your vibe. You've got to lie to yourself, but what you're really doing is you're being honest, and you're just tricking what was a lie. So when I say, or when I live that, you know, if I have this status or I know this person or I get this person's attention and that's going to make me happy, that's the real lie. Mm-hmm. And so it might feel like you're lying to yourself. We call it faith. When you say, I don't have to have anyone's attention in order to be happy. I'm starting to proclaim that through words, which is a manifestation of awareness and intention to count, though you don't feel like it, right? Because that's where the lie you would feel like it's a lie. I don't feel this way, but I'm going to say it. You're counterattacking what you've always lived your life on, and you're trying to raise your vibe to bring people into, you know, that vibe at a higher frequency into your life. Mm-hmm. And so it just comes back to like energy attracts like energy. Yeah. And then the challenge is the higher you go, the further you go, the more you know, the more tempted you are to be overwhelmed at keeping and managing those things and not losing them. Right. And it's about staying light and loose, right? Never accidentally falling into the temptation that, man, I got to keep this in order to be happy. And that's why I'm like, F it. I'll lose it all. And I'll turn a whole experience into what happens when you lose it all. Because I don't believe that what makes me me or what makes me vibe the way I vibe is based on anything from the outside. It's an internal reality of all that God has done for me, and I'm thrilled to be alive, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful, even though things are very tough at times.
Sure. Well, I think it's a good bringing it back to something you said at the beginning about how our life outlasts our breath. Like, that's true regardless of your vibe, right? Like, I want my life to outlast my breath in a very positive way. Like, that's one of the reasons why I like writing. Like, I want to have a legacy, but you can have a legacy with a pretty low vibe.
Yeah.
You know?
No doubt about it. And you know, getting into the holistic, multi-generational component of everything and the template that we inherit, you're not doing this just for yourself. Yeah. Literally, you get into the quantum realm and you understand that everything is connected. Colossians 1 describes this, that everything was created through God, and by his energy, all things are held together. And so we have a really, really hard time understanding, though science is proving it, that my vibe today affects everyone around me, especially those that are within sitting distance of me. Mm-hmm. And so next time you go out to eat, or you're having that lunch meeting, or, you know, it's just lunch, the dating service, realize that the magnetic field, the biomagnetic field of the people that you're sitting with affect you.
Sure.
And so when they're heavy, there's a chance you're going to be heavy. Last thing about the research that I was reading is they were talking about not only the magnetic field north and how animals are more familiar with it, and herds line themselves up with it to flow with the energy of the earth, which is a fascinating thing to think about. They were showing how dogs, specifically household dogs, primarily interact and respond to you via your energy, not your words. And so they were doing some tests with this ECG on a little boy, and they were showing how when he would just have thoughts about the dog toward the dog while the dog was in the room, the dog would change and look at him and come over toward him because the biomagnetic field of his heart was communicating thoughts that the dog had enough coherence to pick up on. And literally they're showing that the rhythms of the heart of the dog and the boy, and they're matching. And it's just like, we are spiritual beings with physical bodies. We are not physical bodies with a spirit. Yeah. We are spirits with bodies. And so the more we can become aware of this energy, we are going to be so much better at managing our vibe. And the world needs higher vibing people.
Yep. So true.
Episode something. I don't even know anymore.
39, Gelman says.
Okay. Well, one last plea here on Emotionships,
okay.
the podcast.
Would someone please text the guy?
Be nice to Mallory. She lost a bet. Be nice to her. Don't crucify her for her hat.
Thank you.